Is Kliff Kingsbury in trouble in Arizona based off of what we saw?
It's the hard thing about it, Rich, is I do think they've made a lot of progress, and I think you look at where the roster was and the position they were in. With Josh Rosen as the quarterback and having fired Steve Wilkes as the head coach going into 19. I mean, I think you could argue that place was as big a mess as any place in football at that point. And Kliff has sort of re-energized it, and I think developed a lot of good young players there and gotten the most out of veterans that they brought in there. Some of whom are clearly on the back end of their careers, and built a good staff. And so there's so much positive there, but just some of the things you hear over the last, I'd say even 12 hours. I think there's some concern that there's going to need to be some level of change. Now, whether that happens on the staff or with the head coach, I don't know. I think a key figure in all this too that everybody should sort of pay attention to. Mm-hmm. So we know, Michael Bidwell and Steve Keim, the owner and GM, would be kind of part of this. Adrian Wilson has a larger voice in the organization. And for people who don't know, obviously he was a great safety for all those years for the team, but he's risen up through the ranks of the organization. Now he's a VP in the scouting department, interviewed for the Giants GM job last week. And, you just sort of hear that he has a growing voice in the organization. And so it'll be interesting to see how they come out in the next couple of days. 'Cause I don't think Kliff in any way deserves to be fired. He's brought the team a long way, and they've consistently progressed, even though they've fallen apart at the end of every year. They've consistently made progress. But just sort of the rumblings you hear out of there are that there's going to be maybe some level of change in the organization based on how they finish the year.
Look, as we all know, breaking news, only one team in the NFL finishes the season off a win, right? So,
yeah.
But I don't know how you bring about change of a late season collapse, right? And then, I'm sure you've seen it all over Twitter as well, the way that his teams finished in college, including with Mahomes, at quarterback. So how do you change whatever that is, right? If you're Kingsbury or whomever.
The hard part about it, here's the thing, Rich, is I think in college, and you know this as well as I do, how do college schedules set up? Normally you're playing a bunch of cupcakes early on, right? And let's call it what it is. Most Power 5 teams, if you've got 4 cupcakes on your schedule, they're probably among the first 6 games, right? And so, I think there's a reason why it happened that way in college, because they aren't playing the University of Texas or Oklahoma on September 1st, And then you look at why it's happened at Arizona. Is it because the roster's aging in certain spots?
Right.
Is it because, they've relied on some older players in some key spots? I mean, this has happened in New England the last couple of years too. So I think there's an explanation for it, but the pattern certainly looks bad, and I think it's something that you certainly have to look at, and that's the part of this that I think is fair. Do I think Kliff could lose his job? No. Do I think that they seriously need to see if there's a deeper issue here just beyond maybe we rely on some older players in some key spots and we can't be doing that forever? Yeah, I think it's fair to ask those questions. And so is that because the coaching staff isn't adjusting to what's being thrown at it over the course of the year? Is it because they're giving answers to other teams and other teams are using those answers in the back half of the season? You and I both know it's a challenging thing coaching in the NFL, and you have to constantly evolve. And I think that's only accelerated, where over the course of a year, it used to be year to year you had to evolve. Now it's almost over the course of a season you have to evolve. And so I think asking those questions is very, very fair. Again, do I think they need to blow things up? No. And I think it'd be tough to do that because you've got a quarterback that's so specific to the head coach that you hired, in Kyler and Kliff. But I do think it's fair to ask some of those big picture questions based on how things have gone the last 3 years.
And it's an excellent point that, in college you start with cupcakes and it gets tougher as the regular season in your conference moves on. It's just interesting that this year Michigan faced the cupcakes at the end of their conference season. So,
you couldn't leave well enough alone there. Well, hey, your school goes 11-2. They throw parades. My school goes 11-2, and half the coaching staff is fired. I guess the standards are different in different places,
Albert Breer, everybody, here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's reset and move on. Reset and move on, as they say in the radio business. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.